Welcome to Story Capital, where history and strategy drive success.
The Empire of Fizz, the definitive history of the Cola Wars. Chapter 1. The Morphine, the Kettle, and the Pharmacy. The story of the world's most famous beverage does not begin in a high-tech laboratory or a corporate skyscraper. It begins in the humid post-Civil War atmosphere of the American South. The year was 1886. Dr. John Stith Pemberton, a Confederate veteran and pharmacist, was a man haunted by pain. Wounded in the war, he had become addicted to morphine, a common tragedy of his era. His quest for a cure led him to experiment with the coca leaf and the cola nut. In a brass kettle in his backyard in Atlanta, Pemberton mixed a thick, dark syrup. When he took it to Jacob's Pharmacy down the street, it was mixed with carbonated water for the first time. He called it Coca-Cola. It was marketed as a brain tonic and a temperance drink, an alternative to alcohol. But Pemberton was a chemist, not a businessman. He sold his rights for a pittance and died just 2 years later, never knowing he had created the most recognized brand in human history. The torch passed to Asa Candler, a man of relentless religious fervor and business ambition. Candler didn't just sell a drink, he sold a brand. He gave away thousands of coupons for free glasses, a revolutionary marketing move at the time. He understood that once the public tasted the refreshment, they would be hooked. By 1900, Coca-Cola was in every state in the Union. It was the undisputed king of the fountain. While Coca-Cola was building an empire, a younger pharmacist in North Carolina named Caleb Bradham was watching. In 1893, he created Brad's Drink, which he later renamed Pepsi Cola. While Coca-Cola was building an empire, a younger pharmacist in North Carolina named Caleb Bradham was watching. In 1893, he created Brad's Drink, which he later renamed Pepsi Cola. Bradham believed his concoction, containing pepsin and vanilla, was a digestive aid. He was ambitious, but he lacked the massive distribution network of his rival in Atlanta. However, Pepsi's early history was a sequence of disasters. During World War I, sugar prices fluctuated wildly. Bradham gambled on sugar futures, betting the prices would keep rising. He was wrong. Prices collapsed, and by 1923, Pepsi Cola was bankrupt. The company was sold for a mere $30,000. For the next decade, Pepsi was a ghost, a zombie company. It changed hands multiple times. In fact, on 3 separate occasions, the owners of Pepsi were so desperate they offered to sell the company to Coca-Cola. Each time, Coca-Cola's leadership declined. They saw Pepsi as a weak, insignificant imitator. They believed they had already won. It was a mistake of arrogance that would cost them billions in the decades to come. Chapter 3. The 5-Cent Revolution and the Great Depression. The 1930s brought the Great Depression. While families struggled to put bread on the table, Coca-Cola remained a steady success. But Pepsi saw an opening. Under the leadership of Walter Mack, Pepsi decided to play the value card. At the time, Coca-Cola sold its iconic 6.5-ounce contour bottle for 5 cents. Mack decided to double the value. He used 12-ounce beer bottles, filled them with Pepsi, and sold them for the same 5 cents. It was a direct attack on the working class's wallet. To drive the point home, Pepsi launched the first-ever musical advertising jingle in history. This jingle was a viral sensation decades before the internet. It was played on the radio across the country, hammering home the message, twice as much for a nickel too. Coca-Cola was trapped. Their entire infrastructure, vending machines and millions of glass bottles, was designed for the 6.5-ounce size. They couldn't change their bottle size without spending millions, and they couldn't lower their price without losing profit. For the first time, the king felt the underdog breathing down its neck. Chapter 4. The Pepsi Generation and the Michael Jackson Era. After World War II, the battle moved from the price tag to the psyche. Coca-Cola positioned itself as the drink of tradition, home, and stability. They were the real thing. They were the drink your grandfather drank. Pepsi realized they couldn't win on tradition. So, they decided to own the future. In the 1960s, they launched the Pepsi Generation campaign. This was a masterstroke of lifestyle marketing. They didn't talk about the ingredients. They showed young people on motorcycles, surfing, and dancing. This reached its peak in the 1980s when Pepsi signed Michael Jackson for a record-breaking $5 million. The commercials weren't ads, they were mini music videos. Pepsi became the choice of a new generation. Suddenly, Coke looked old. Coke looked like the drink you had at Sunday dinner with your parents, while Pepsi was the drink you had at a concert. Chapter 5. The New Coke Fiasco. The 79 Days That Shook the World. By 1985, Pepsi's momentum was terrifying. The Pepsi Challenge, a blind taste test where people consistently chose the sweeter Pepsi, had convinced Coke executives that their formula was the problem. They feared that the youth of the world simply preferred a different taste.
In April 1985, Coca-Cola CEO Roberto Goizueta announced they were discarding their 99-year-old secret formula.
They introduced New Coke. It was smoother and sweeter. The backlash was a cultural earthquake. The company received 1,500 angry phone calls a day. People were hoarding cases of old Coke in their basements. What the executives missed was that Coca-Cola wasn't just a liquid, it was a piece of American identity. Changing the formula felt like changing the flag. After only 79 days, Coke surrendered. They brought back the original formula as Coca-Cola Classic. Ironically, the failure became a victory. The massive publicity and the emotional reunion with the old flavor sent sales through the roof. Some conspiracy theorists even believe Coke did it on purpose to drive up demand, though the executives insisted it was just a massive mistake. Chapter 6. The Modern Battle, Snacks versus Drinks. As we entered the 21st century, the war changed. Sugar became the new enemy. Health concerns rose. PepsiCo made a brilliant strategic pivot under Indra Nooyi, realizing that while people might drink less soda, they would never stop snacking. They acquired Frito-Lay and Quaker Oats, turning PepsiCo into a global food giant. Coca-Cola, however, stayed loyal to the share of throat. They bought water brands, juice brands, and even entered the coffee market with Costa Coffee. Today, the war is fought in the aisles of supermarkets in India, the vending machines of Tokyo, and the digital advertising space of TikTok. The story of the Cola Wars is not just about a beverage, it's a story of human psychology and the relentless drive to be number one. It shows us that in business, your greatest rival is often the person who pushes you to be your best. Without Pepsi, Coke would have become a lazy monopoly. Without Coke, Pepsi would have never found its identity. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the history of corporate warfare. If you found this story fascinating and want to learn more about the empires and the failures that built the modern world, make sure to subscribe to Story Capital.